so today we are making burgers. So I will show you my trick for forming those patties so that they don't shrink up when you cook them. But even more fun, we are making spinach with feta burgers, which sounds interesting and different and totally cool in my opinion. This is a diabetes-friendly recipe. It is low carbs. Most of your carbs are really just going to come from your bun. So, of course, use whole wheat bun because that's way better for you. Even if you don't have diabetes, use whole wheat. It's way better for you. So, like I said, it's a diabetes-friendly meal. You can serve your burger with whatever you would normally serve your burger with and top it with whatever you would normally top your burger with. We're going to top it with slices of tomato and whatever leftover spinach we don't put inside the burger. I'm excited to try these. This is a new recipe for all of us. So let's go through the ingredients. We are using, of course, ground beef, some baby spinach, shallots, Greek seasoning, olive oil, garlic, feta, and salt and pepper. And like I said, whole wheat buns, and we'll top it with a sliced tomato. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is take the stems off of our spinach leaves. I can't open it. Oh well. The lid's going to be difficult for me today. So you just pull the stems off. We need 2.5 cups fresh spinach leaves, coarsely chopped. So we're going to pull all the stems off, and then we will chop them with my salad chopper. This can take a long time, so we're going to speed it up. And we're done. Okay, all of our spinach is de-leafed. This is what we will use for our topping, so I'm setting that aside so I don't get confused. It's also why it's in a purple bowl instead of a clear bowl. We need 2.5 cups. So I'm going to pour that out, make sure I have 2.5 cups. There's half a cup. And then one cup-ish. Spinach is hard to measure. And then this should be 1 more cup. And it is. Okay, so now it needs to be coarsely chopped. So I'm going to use my salad choppers from Pampered Chef. You can use kitchen shears so long as they're clean. You can do it the old-fashioned way with a knife on your cutting board. That takes entirely too long for me, so I like my salad choppers. I'm gonna give this a little toss to make sure I'm getting everything. And it's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if you've got some leaves still mostly whole. Coarsely chopped, not finely diced. So big pieces are fine. Okay, there is our spinach. Next thing we need to do is chop 2 shallots. So if you're like me, you have probably never seen a shallot before. This is a shallot. It looks like a cross between an onion and a garlic. It peels just like an onion does. So I'll let you see. It looks kind of like a purple onion. A little trash bag. I like to keep a trash bag handy when I'm cooking. That way I don't have to keep going back and forth to the trash can. And it's usually just the veggie bag whatever my produce came in. This one's being picky. There. These are not as easy to peel as onions are. Okay, let me get this last layer off. Okay, good enough. Does not feel like picking at it. Okay, I'm gonna chop this the same way I chop an onion. Ooh, the juices are stinging like onion juices are, like my eyes are watering. So I can't, I mean, I can try. We're gonna try. So I'm making my slits just like I would on my onion. It's doable. It's not as easy as an onion because it's skinnier. And cross-cutting it. That's cool. So this is a shallot. I'm gonna scoop that into my bowl. So this has a couple of different steps to it. We have our preparing our ingredients step, which is where we're at right now. And then we're gonna cook the shallots in oil with the spinach and the garlic. And then we're gonna allow that to cool, and we're gonna mix it with our salt, pepper, Greek seasoning, and our meat. And then we'll form the patties and grill the burgers on a griddle. So it's got a few little steps in there. That chopped way better than I thought it would. Nice. There we go. Scoop that into my bowl also. So now we're ready to start cooking our shallots in oil. For sake of having a big enough skillet, I am using my stainless steel. I would probably normally use my cast iron, but I didn't want to use the big giant one. I didn't feel like it was necessary, but I felt like the spinach would come tumbling out of the little one. So I poured enough olive oil. I didn't measure it. I just poured enough to cover the bottom. Let me tell you how much it's supposed to be though. It's supposed to be a tablespoon. So I probably have a little more than that. I'm bringing my garlic, and my spinach and my garlic press over here too. I'm gonna cook the shallots first for about 30 seconds. And then I'm gonna add the spinach and the garlic via the press to what I'm cooking. And I have to wait for this to heat up, which shouldn't take too long. I'm going to use my wooden spatula today. One, because it's clean, and two, because I like it. Like it's a good saute spatula. And that's basically what we're doing is sauteing here. Let me get my sippy. My water. I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry and I cannot wait to eat these. Okay, so an old-fashioned way of finding out if your skillet is hot enough is throwing some water in, and it'll spark or sizzle, and it's not at all. So we'll give it a couple more minutes to heat up. I could have preheated this. I should have preheated it. Well, we're going to cook our shallots now that our skillet is good and hot. Hear that sizzle. These are going to cook just like onions. I'm going to make the assumption that shallots are used in this recipe instead of onions because maybe they have fewer carbs, because onions are really carby for a vegetable. So just a quick cook. My oil was pretty hot, so like some of my shallots are already browning, which is not exactly what you want, but it's okay. It's not gonna be harmful. Okay. That seems like it was 20 to 30 seconds. I'm not good at time. Was that 20 to 30 seconds, James?
I think so.
Good enough? Okay. So now we're going to add the spinach and the garlic. And we're going to cook this until the spinach is good and wilted. And so even though you can kind of see a little bit of wilting to the spinach because of where we chopped it, it's not really wilted yet. You'll see it change. I'm going to use my garlic press to add my garlic. If you do not have a garlic press, you can buy dried minced garlic. You can also buy garlic powder. 3 cloves is about 3 teaspoons minced and about 1.5 teaspoons powdered. I think that's pretty close. But if you have the extra $15, I think that's about what these cost, maybe a little more, a little less. Invest in a garlic press. This one's from Pampered Chef, but you can get them anywhere. It doesn't have to be a Pampered Chef press.
Yeah, they're mostly all the same. That one we've had for years. They don't really go out.
This one's close to a decade old. It'll change the way you cook. Fresh garlic is so much better than the stuff in the bottle. The stuff in the bottle's good, but fresh is so much better. I almost never use the dried stuff anymore. Okay, I'm going to give this a stir, and then I'm going to go wash my hands, and you guys can watch my spinach wilt.
Yeah, look at it go.
I always wash my hands whenever I use garlic because it's kind of sticky and it is very smelly. It's a good smell, but it does kind of stay on your hands if you don't wash it off right away. So can you tell that this is wilting? It's not as fluffy or vibrant. It's kind of a darker green, a more saturated green, and it's kind of shrunk down a lot as it's wilted and gotten droopy.
Yeah, just considering how big and fluffy it was a few months ago.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's really not anymore. Just gonna double check that that's all I need to do with that. Get that out of it. So I'm going to transfer this over to my bowl. I'm going to try to not get all that olive oil. So
How are you going to avoid that?
I'm going to kind of squeeze it on the sides to get the oil out. It's okay if you get some. It'll be fine. It'll probably actually help the burgers not stick to the griddle. But I don't want all of it.
Yeah, and like you said, it was maybe a little more than a tablespoon.
Yeah. I don't like to measure out my oil. The tablespoon doesn't always cover. Oops, sorry.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yep. All right, we're gonna let this cool for just a little bit before we add the meat to it. Now, adding the meat is kind of the gross part. So we're gonna set up and be back in just a second. Okay, so we have 2 pounds of 85% lean ground beef. If you can find leaner, get leaner. That's what we had available at our store this week. And we're gonna add, before we add the meat, we're gonna add our feta, 2/3 of a cup. And I'm trying to think if there's an easier way to do this. There's really not. It's probably about the whole container. Yeah, it's close enough. I'm just gonna dump the whole thing in.
That's a 4-ounce container.
Yeah. So it said in the serving sizes that it was 4 servings that were 1/4 of a cup each, which equals a whole cup. But you saw when I measured it was pretty much 2/3 of a cup. I wouldn't have called that a whole cup. But that's just me. Okay, we're gonna mix this up together.
That smells like cheese.
It does.
Yeah, it makes you ask, who cut the cheese?
It doesn't smell like that.
No, it doesn't. I love feta cheese.
You weirdo. People are gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna make that if it smells like cutting the cheese. Gross. No, it does not smell like that. He's crazy. Okay, this is the part where we say goodbye to the spatula and where the part gets really, really messy. I have taken off my rings because we're gonna mix with our hands. Now, you can mix with a spoon or a mixing chop or whatever, but when it comes to mixing up hamburger, I really feel like it's better if you do it by hand. And we're gonna really kind of get down and dirty with it. I don't know, I can't think of a nice way to say that. Or an accurate way of saying that without sounding naughty. So I'm just breaking it up into crumbles first. And my meat was not thawed out on time, so it's still pretty cold, a little bit solid. I really thought I got it out of the fridge, and I apparently did not. That happens. It's okay, because the heat from the spinach and the heat from my hands will definitely soften it up.
Yeah, you'd be amazed what some hot water over ground beef will do. Because try to defrost it in the microwave and it sometimes just cooks it. And
Yeah,
it's still
it
frozen.
cooks it, and I don't like that. So it's okay. So I'm just kind of tossing everything together like you would toss a salad, but I'm also like squeezing and squishing like you would clay or Play-Doh.
It looks like a fold and press through.
Right. Oh, and I need to add the seasonings. So I'm gonna get this mixed and then I'll wash my hands and then add the seasonings and then go back to doing this. Okay. So there, it's not completely mixed yet, but we still gotta add our seasonings.
Now the seasoning is...
We're using the Greek seasoning, and then also some salt and pepper. Okay, so it's 3/4 of a teaspoon of the Greek seasoning. So 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. So that's what we're using. And so there's 1/4. Plus more than 1/2. It's okay. Be extra seasoning. And then about 1/2 teaspoon of salt and about 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. So I just grind it with the lid on. And check it. That's about 1/2 teaspoon. And same thing with the pepper. That's about 1/4. Okay, and we're gonna go back to mixing. This would be a bad time to have like your hair fall on your face or have to itch your nose because you can't.
And if you did anyway, you'd regret it.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to make sure everything gets good and mixed in so that you don't have like a giant hunk of seasoning in one spot and nothing in another. And same with like, you don't want all the spinach in one burger and no spinach in the other, although maybe my child might like that. Most of my children are pretty good about eating their spinach. I have one child who's anti-cheese, and so he's already not really looking forward to this. He's asked if I could make his without cheese.
Like,
To which I said, I'm sorry, it's mixed into the meat. I really can't do that for you this time.
And then he did a teen super grown.
Yep. Which if you are raising teenagers or have had raised teenagers in the past, you know how good they are at that grown.
Or if you are a teenager, or you recently were a teenager, you probably also understand.
I probably don't want to admit, but it's okay. We have been teenagers not that long ago. I understand how it is. I'm just kind of trying to find out the spots on the meat that's still a little frozen.
Yeah.
And warm them up a little bit.
It'll probably work out when you make your patties, right?
Yeah, for the most part. Okay, so this is going to make 8 patties. So, this on my thing, and I'm going to have it. There's 2 patties. I'm going to have it and have it. There's 4 patties. Almost there. And it's okay if they're not exactly the same. We'll even them out in a little bit. Okay.
Not all of the people in the family are the same size, so.
Oh, there's that too. So I have this one, but it wasn't really half. And then half it. And then have it, but that wasn't really half either. Then have it.
These are going to be some pretty hefty burgers.
It was 2 pounds, so they're about 1/4 pounders. Yeah, about 1/4 pound.
Yep, and then 4 ounces of cheese mixed in, and then however much spinach mixed in.
It was 2.5 cups.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're a little bit more than 1/4 pound. I mean, I could get out my scale and weigh them, but I don't really want to. Okay, so now I'm just working them into a good ball. Now this is something that my college roommate taught me how to do when making a hamburger patty. Work it into a good ball. I'd never made hamburgers before I lived with her.
Oh, remember she would like whip her arm up and slap. Like she'd throw it down on the counter.
Yeah, I'm not gonna quite do that, but you'll see.
Yeah, good old Shayna Scott.
Oh, I wasn't gonna name names.
Oh, she's worth it. She's great. She's such a great roommate.
She was a good roommate. Okay, anyways. This one's up a little bit small. That's okay. I've got a little bit of a small guy, so he'll be fine. I'm not real particular about these being exactly the same. I mean, maybe I ought to be, but I'm not. Okay. I'm gonna make myself a nice little workspace. Okay. So you smash it flat, and any of those lumps that you still got in there that haven't really worked themselves out yet. So it's kind of like working with Play-Doh or cookie dough. Just working it all in so it's good. And we're gonna shape it into a circle like you would expect, but then we're gonna pinch this up into a ridge. So it's almost like an ashtray shape.
Again, with Play-Doh.
Yeah. So what will happen is normally when you cook a burger, if you don't shape it like this, it shrinks up as it cooks. But when you do this, it doesn't. And you'll see when we get to the cooking part. It just, for some reason, does not shrink up. This little shelf kind of helps it. Okay, so that one's good.
And I mean, also what helps with the shrinkage is the lower the fat content of your ground beef, the better it's going to be, the less it's going to shrink.
Oh yeah, it's still going to shrink some, but the higher or the leaner, the leaner the meat, the less grease that comes pouring out. So the better it cooks. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and get my griddle warming up too while I'm thinking about it. Because once I run out of room over here, I'm going to start transferring them over. I am interested in seeing how the feta changes the way this cooks.
How do you think it might?
I really don't know. I don't know if it'll melt like a mozzarella and get stringy or what. I just don't know. So this says to cook it on a grill covered for 6 to 8 minutes on each side. I'm just using my griddle because I don't have a grill. So we don't have the option of covering it. So they might need to cook a little bit longer than 6 to 8 minutes on a side. But if you've watched my other videos, you've probably heard me say, when cooking things like burgers and eggs and chicken, pancakes, etc., I don't like to leave it for the 6 to 8 minutes. I want it to brown more evenly than that. So I tend to flip it back and forth. Quite a lot, actually. To make sure it's cooked thoroughly. I also like my meat on the rarer side. So 6 to 8 minutes sounds like a long time to me. So we'll just have to see what they look like.
I don't know, at home you don't usually cook things too rare, especially not burgers. Those are usually, anything ground beef is almost always cooked all the way through. But if it was a steak where you could have a pink middle, then that would be different.
Yeah, I basically cook it until it looks good, which, I don't know, maybe that's an intuitive thing. We'll see. I don't know, I've never really had to evaluate that. We'll see. Okay, so I have my little meat ashtrays. Can you say ashtray anymore? Like, is that allowed?
I don't know. And
it's so funny, like, how things have changed in our lifetime, because I grew up in a household with a smoker, and there were ashtrays everywhere. And even after my grandma quit smoking, she kept ashtrays in the house for her brother who would visit, or friends or family who would visit and who smoked. She just kept them in the house. But, you know, these days, people don't smoke. And those that do, I don't know that I've not been to the house of a smoker in such a long time that, I don't know, do they keep ashtrays? Do they even sell ashtrays anymore? I assume they do, but I legitimately don't know.
I mean, my mom always smoked. She smoked my entire life. I mean, she smoked almost her entire life. I think she started when she was 12, but I don't know how old she was. But anyway, she usually smoked outside. she'd step out on the porch, or she'd sit next to the fireplace of all things.
Okay,
So
I'm gonna enter because we're gonna cook.
yeah, please.
So I'm using my Pepper Chef fish flipper, I think is what it's called. But any flat metal spatula will work well for this. So we're just gonna start throwing these on here. If these were plain regular burgers, this would be the point where I'd sprinkle some garlic powder on them. So I actually just almost went and did that. But we don't want to because that'll mix with the Greek seasoning that we've already got in the burgers. I had to remind myself I was making something different.
I cannot get that ashtray visual out of my head now. I'm like, so they're going to taste all... That's not the kind of smoky taste for food that I want.
No. They're not going to taste like ashtrays, I promise.
No,
if they do, then something has gone horribly wrong.
And they're definitely not going to taste like Play-Doh either, are they?
No, they're not. Again, if they do, something's gone horribly wrong. But I would rather Play-Doh than ashtray.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry for that.
It's okay. They can't see it. They can only see what they see. They can't smell it. So
It doesn't smell like an ashtray either, though.
It's just, it smells like a burger. That sizzling meat.
I'm just back in the background cleaning up and really.
Yeah, we're watching them sizzle. See what that smells like? Parmesan. Like that. That's the kind of smell. Like that. And like Parmesan breaded stuff usually smells really great. Oops, sorry. So it smells great.
It does smell really good.
So this is one on the bottom.
Like I said, I don't like to let these sit. I like to flip them back and forth. So that way they don't over brown. And actually I can turn these down a little. I've got these on about a medium. And see how instead of shrinking they kind of splay out? Because of that shape we made them in. Okay. While these are cooking, I'm going to slice my tomato. And I'm just going to slice it right onto my plate. I'm using a tomato knife. It's serrated similar to like a steak knife, but it's slightly different. But it helps me get good thin slices. I don't know how I've gone my whole cooking life without one of these. I just got this a couple months ago, thanks to my Pampered Chef dealer, who is trying to convince me to sell Pampered Chef too because I already own so much. And I probably didn't cut those as thin as I wanted to, but that's okay.
They're allowed to be just happy customers, right?
Right? No, we are. And then I have a leftover tomato from last time we had burgers. This is not all that long ago.
Look at those.
They smell really good. James was kind of, he hit the nail on the head when he said they smell like Parmesan. Sneeze.
Bless you.
Oh my goodness.
Gotta document every moment.
So when you're flipping burgers, you can see the grease is building up. Just be very careful that you don't splash yourself because that grease is gonna hurt. Grease burns are, I always say steam burns are the worst burns, but grease burns are pretty bad too.
They just sit. They sit on your skin and the heat just goes right in your skin. If you are using a propane burner, the grease fire, yeah, watch out for that.
Yes.
But don't put water on that if that's ever the thing. Just put some baking soda over it, right? And that'll put out fire. If you got that grease coming out. Am I right? I think I'm right.
I know you're not supposed to put water on a grease fire. You're supposed to smother a grease fire.
Yeah, and stuff that doesn't burn.
Right. So I would get out like a glass lid and put it over it.
Oh yeah, that would
Because I can never remember what it is you're supposed to put on it. I'm going to get a plate with some paper towels. Put the cooked burgers on, because that'll soak up some of the grease. And then you can heat the inside of your buns on like a clean griddle. Some people like that toasty crunchiness on the inside of their bun. I'm not a fan of it, so I don't usually do that.
Oh man, back in Festus, Missouri, Gordon's Stoplight, they had the grill that was just the giant sheet of sheet metal.
Yeah.
And they would just toss a pat of butter across, and it just like slide, and they used the spatula to slide it all the way across, and then they just drop all their buns. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they would sit them there while they were frying next to them. It was awesome.
It is really cool. You could also just use your toaster if you have a bagel setting on your toaster, and that'll toast just the inside of your bun. And it might kind of squish or flatten your bun though.
There's all kinds of different types of hamburger buns. We've picked up like challah sort of buns and French rolls.
This I kind of would just stick with a regular whole wheat hamburger bun. Maybe a sesame seed bun, but I wouldn't do a potato bun or a challah. Maybe a pretzel dough, but that's super carb heavy, and really so is the challah and so is the potato bread. So I would stick with a whole wheat, especially if you're worried about carbs.
I'm working against you. I'm sorry.
You are. All those other buns are really, really delicious, but they are not diabetic friendly at all, which makes me very sad.
But these burgers are much too big to be put on anything that is like, I don't know. What are the smaller versions of buns?
They're sliders.
I only mean like a thinner, like flatbread sort of buns.
Oh.
We haven't twisted that or tried those yet.
Oh, like the sandwich thins?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those would fall apart under the weight of these. and honestly, I have kind of carb compared, and they're about the same amount of carbs. So it wasn't really any added benefit.
Good to know. One's a little deep, a little soft and floppy, but that one's
So I'm moving things around so they get heated more evenly. And I'm getting a pool of grease here.
Oh, some of that is definitely cheese oil.
Yeah. You can tell because it's yellowy.
Let me finish since they're adding some grease.
I'm sure.
It's gorgeous.
Does look yummy.
Wow, so this is a great recipe.
I hope it tastes as good as it smells, and I expect that it will, to be honest.
Is that all we got to do?
Yep, I'm going to keep cooking these. We'll come back in just a couple of minutes, and you can see what a completed burger looks like. All right, we're back, and we're ready to make our burger into a full burger. I'm going to pull these off. These are good and done. When I press on them, any of the grease coming out is clear, or kind of yellowish from the cheese or from the spinach, rather than being pink, which is what you don't want. If it's pink, they're not done. Okay, now I'm going to take this one, put it on my bun. I've got my little nest of spinach leaves here. My tomato, my bun, and voila! There is my spinach and feta burger all ready for dinner. Doesn't it look delicious?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I am so glad you guys joined me today for making our spinach. I tried to say spinach and feta at the same time. Spinach and feta burgers. If you liked this recipe, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to follow the link to my bio. That link will be there in the description of the video. My blog includes cooking tips and all kinds of recipes and tips for healthy living and homeschooling and all the fun and wacky things we do in this house. You guys have a great day. Bye.